Coming up on Windows Weekly, I'm filling in for Leo Laporte. We'll be talking with Paul Thurrott about the Nokia Microsoft partnership. He's got some interesting ideas and some interesting omissions from the announcement you might not have noticed. We'll also go over the news from Mobile World Congress for Windows Phone 7, and Paul will tell us why you can't trust a Canadian, at least one in particular. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott, episode 196, recorded February 17th, 2011. The Zune Identity. This episode of Windows Weekly is brought to you by GoToAssist Express. If you're in tech support, clients rely on you for fast and reliable service. Help them the fast and easy way with GoToAssist Express. For a free 30-day trial, visit gotoassist.com/windows. And by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to publish a high-quality website or blog. For a free 14-day trial, go to squarespace.com/windows. And by Audible.com. Download a free audiobook of your choice right now at audible.com/windows. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show that covers all things in the Windows universe, Microsoft-related and more, and of course, the man who brings it all to you, Paul Thurrott, news editor for Windows IT Pro, the man in charge of WinSuperSite.com, and author of Windows Phone 7 Secrets. Alex made sure I had a copy of it this time.
See, this is one of the many areas where you diverge from Leo, because Leo would have pulled out the Delphi 3 Super Bible. See?
And called it Windows Phone 7 Secrets? Or just been like,
just would have,
author of the Delphi...
Here's a book that Paul wrote 15 years ago that sold 8 copies.
Author of Windows Vista Secrets.
Yes.
Paul Thurrott.
Speaking of books that sold 8 copies.
Leo Laporte, of course, on vacation one last week. I believe he's gone from Antarctica now.
Okay.
We really need to have a Google Map overlay so people can track him, but I think he's now vacationing with his family.
Nice. I'm actually, it's the minute that we finish up here, I'm going to turn off my computer, walk out the door, and head to the airport myself.
Where are you headed?
I'm going to Spain.
Oh, that's where my wife is right now.
What part?
She's in Madrid.
Oh, funny. Well,
this is a little too weird. No, she's out there with Dvorak. Actually.
Oh, I see.
They're shooting.
Yeah, I mean, I might actually meet up with them then. I guess there's a Ford event.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is completely coincidental. It's just the kids' vacation week, and we haven't been. And Madrid is a direct flight, which is always a plus when you're flying with kids.
Boy, Madrid sounds fantastic from what Eileen has been telling me. It's a very cosmopolitan, very major city. Barcelona is great, but Barcelona I've been to feels more like a regional city in a good way. Yeah. Whereas Madrid, I guess, is a little more of a big. It's because it's bigger, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've never been to Spain, period, and this is just our introduction to Spain. I think we'll make a couple of side trips, but we're not going to go anywhere far away.
Well, we're going to talk. We got a little travel tech segment coming up in the show. Since Paul's been preparing for Spain, he'll share some of his travel wisdom with us.
Well, wisdom, I don't know wisdom, but
these are the essential things you need to know from traveling.
Right.
Also going on in Spain, of course, Mobile World Congress. We're going to talk about that in general, but two big things, one not in Spain and one in Spain, happened last week. Friday, Nokia announced their partnership with Microsoft at their Capital Markets conference. And then, of course, at Mobile World Congress, Stephen Elop gave another address talking about their partnership with Microsoft, and even Steve Ballmer got on stage and talked about their partnership. So you wrote a really good article up on WinSuperSite that I read that kind of broke down this entire announcement.
There's so much to get out of it.
Yeah, what's the top line here?
Well, I mean, some of the things, it's funny, I've seen people pick up on this since then, but the two things I picked up on immediately were, he never said Windows Phone 7, ever. He called it Windows Phone. And now that may seem innocuous. And certainly if you were to look up Microsoft speeches about Windows Phone, you would find instances where they refer to it simply as Windows Phone. But you would also find many instances where they refer to it as Windows Phone 7. And Stephen Elop never said that, not once during his introduction or during his press conference. I find that notable. And when you look at the timing and what he said about when they expect to be in market and so forth, he was talking about shipping product in volume in 2012, which is the time frame for the next version of Windows Phone, which will be based on Windows, not on Windows Phone, right? So there's also a platform transition occurring sometime in the future on the Windows Phone platform. So this suggests to me that Nokia, which I guess is actually pronounced Nokia, I hate saying that for some reason, is
I noticed,
really...
It's a minimal side note, but I noticed Ballmer and Elop both pronounced it differently.
Yeah, of course, right. I hope we can assume that Elop is pronouncing it correctly.
I would guess. But
I think is he Canadian? Or I know
he's Canadian.
Yeah, so actually you can never trust a Canadian to pronounce anything, so maybe we shouldn't make that assumption. Anyway, I thought that was
our title, Never Trust a Canadian.
Never trust a Canadian, yeah. That great white threat to the north. So that was the first thing that stuck out. And as you and I were talking before the show, with an event like this that is momentous and a big news story, and when you can get it on video like that and watch it, not just read it, but watch it. What I did with it is I watched it, and then I went back and I watched it again, and just to make sure that the general thoughts that I had going around in my head were correct, and then to take more specific notes and so forth. And so that was the big one. Now the other part of this, and this is something I happen to have information about on separately from this event, was they put up this beautiful slide of all the Microsoft and to a lesser extent the Nokia products and services that would be impacted by this partnership between the two companies. And what was conspicuously missing, both from that slide and from the discussion, neither Stephen Elop nor Steve Ballmer ever said the word Zune, not once. And I thought that was very interesting because I happen to know that Zune as a brand is on the way out. That, in fact, this is something that's been going on for quite some time. And I don't have a specific end game, but looking at the schedule, you have to think Windows 8 is going to be that drop-off period where everything that is Zune today, and it really has evolved over the years, right? It used to be very specifically about those devices, and today it's more about the services. Those things are going to continue, not necessarily the devices. I actually don't have any information about that, but the products and services, the PC software that you use to sync Windows Phone to your computer, the Zune Pass service, the Zune Marketplace, where you buy the content online and all that stuff. That stuff's all going to continue, but the Zune brand is on the way out. And I think in that you see this implicit admission of that. Now, what was interesting post-announcement was that Mary Jo Foley wrote up something where she said, is kind of a rhetorical question, is Zune going away, or is Zune being killed off? I think she said, are they kidding Zune, which is kind of an awful use of that word, but it actually drew a response from Microsoft where they very specifically said, no, we're not getting rid of any of the Zune products and services, to which I say, right, you're getting rid of the Zune brand. That's my point. In other words, the things that make up Zune are going to continue, but they're going to be rebranded.
So would they still have I mean, I know you said you don't know about devices, but do you think that means they would still have a music player? Or are they just speaking
no, I don't think so.
Than that?
This is I'm with the understanding that this is pure speculation.
Yeah.
When you look at Microsoft and you think about the brands that they have, and you have brands that have been successful, like Windows and Xbox, and then you have brands that have not been successful, like Zune. And I want to be very clear about this. I love Zune. I love the products. I really like the media players. I like the PC software. I think if you look at this whole thing, piece by piece, I really love using this stuff. I think it's great. So don't take this the wrong way. But I think to consumers, by and large, Zune is either a complete non-entity in the sense that they've never heard of it, or they have a negative reaction to it, that they have it in their head that Zune has been a failure. So with those connotations, and Mary Jo Foley made a distinction where she said, a lot of people associate Zune with a Kin, but I don't actually think that's true, only because I don't think Kin has very good brand awareness, period. It was only in the market for some weeks. And
maybe on the analyst side they do, but I don't think maybe consumers do.
I just think to the general public. So with that in mind, two comments I would say about the future of a standalone player. Microsoft would be crazy not to release a phoneless version of Windows Phone that was just like the iPod Touch is to the iPhone.
Okay.
And is something that we would call a Zune device, right? The Zune HD2 or whatever you want to call it. They're almost certainly not going to use that Zune name. So what would they use? I think the logical thing for them to use, and it makes a lot of sense when you consider how Windows Phone has been successful, or I should say where Windows Phone has been successful, is that it should be branded as an Xbox device. Because they have Xbox Live on Windows Phone. They have lots of tremendous games. It's one, I don't want to say few areas, but it is one of the areas where Windows Phone has really done a stand-up job in the short amount of time it's been in the market. And of course, it could have all that music and audio, you know, the video stuff, just like a Zune player would, because that stuff's all available on the Xbox as well. So this, again, is just a guess. But if Microsoft is going to come out with a player, a standalone player this year, you know, that they sell under the Microsoft brand, they have to use the Xbox brand for that because Xbox is successful.
Some sort of portable spin on it, like Xbox Go or Xbox Mobile or something?
Exactly, yeah. Just a guess.
Yeah,
just
sure.
Just a guess.
I think you're right. Obviously, the next step for them on the Zune device front would be to go with an iPod Touch-like competitor or some sort of Windows Phone without the phone sort of thing.
Because now you have that app platform.
Yeah.
And this is a way for people to buy into the platform very cheaply, you know, compared to getting a phone, which, you know, either requires a 2-year contract or you can buy I think you can buy a Samsung Focus from AT&T for $400, let's say, I think it is, without a contract. So if you had something that was half that cost, but it could run all those games, run all those applications, would connect online via Wi-Fi instead of 3G, or you could even, I mean, the way these devices go, you could even have an optional, you know, a SIM card 3G type of setup as well. Why not? I mean, all these other devices are doing it, but it just wouldn't be a phone, you know, something you could give to kids or whatever. I think there'd be some interest in that, you know.
Yeah, I think you're right that Zune doesn't mean anything in the consumer marketplace right now, unless it maybe means the device itself. But the fact that it's called Zune on the Xbox now, it just actually confuses people more. They're like, where's that market?
Even though it's very high quality, even though I know as someone who's used this for a long time that as they brought that now playing experience over from the PC software to the Xbox, how awesome it is and how long it, you know, I would wish they had this 2 years ago. And, you know, you think we had the news last week where, you know, the Zune marketplace stuff is actually seeing a little bit of traction here in the United States. It'd be nice. You know, I like the brand personally. I like the logo. I wish they would keep it. But I know from experience, I know from having dealt with these people for a long time, you know, and I don't remember if this conversation was with you or Leo anymore. I'm sorry. But, you know, at some point in the past, I'd gone and visited the Zune team when they had moved into this new building. And I'm telling you, there were thousands of people there working on God knows what. I mean, most of it looked like graphic art stuff, you know, like the designs you would see etched on the back of a Zune device when you buy it directly from Microsoft, or those little wallpapers they have. Hundreds and hundreds of people doing this stuff. It was crazy.
I like what Webby in the chat room here says. You just change it to XUNE.
Yeah, maybe, sure. I mean, you know, branding is hard. Coming up with a new brand is hard. Microsoft went the cheap and easy route, obviously, with Windows Phone, just by calling it Windows, you know.
Which is more the traditional Microsoft branding situation.
It is, but it's also, think about it, it's also comes in the wake of a decade in which they haven't launched virtually any successful new brands. I mean, there are exceptions, you know, things like SharePoint, for example, which is a big deal in the corporate world. But, you know, creating a successful brand is very hard. It's the reason that Apple uses whatever on everything they make, because there's instant brand recognition. And it's hard, you know. I wish the Zune stuff had taken off. I still wish it would. I wish they would reverse course and keep it or whatever. But
on whatever under whatever name, I think they can take off. I think they've got a better chance of competing.
Just adding it to Windows would make it a big deal.
Because of the Xbox and because of the huge PC install base, they have a better chance of competing in that arena than definitely in the mobile device arena, aside from phones and probably even in phones. But so back to this merger, and this has been beaten up in the blogs and in the press quite a bit over the past few days. But is it two turkeys or two bicyclists or what? What's your metaphor for these two getting together?
Well, there's no doubt that both of these companies have seen their former fortunes in the mobile world crumble to dust. Somebody from Nokia, it was after the announcement, had said, their internal projections were that they were looking at single-digit market share in the smartphone market within a very short period of time. That, even though there were a lot of people looking at the figures today saying, God, you still 400, million of these devices every year. You have 37% market share, whatever the figure's at right now. How could you not make a go of this? What these people don't know about is internally how awful things were at Nokia and where their new platforms were going nowhere. And they're just kind of sitting there watching the world go by. So I think when you look at what they did, it's not like they had a lot of choices. I mean, you could go on with your current strategy, which was failing. You could link up with Android, and as you said, and I think we discussed this on our own, I mean, becoming yet another Android hardware maker is a sad fate for a once mighty company. I mean, this is not much action there. Or you could link up with Microsoft in a meaningful way and have impact on the future of this platform and thus also on your own future. So they got favored nation status in a way in that they are, I think they have a special relationship with Microsoft that the other hardware makers don't have, and the other service providers and so forth. Some of that stuff will be driven back to everybody because you'll see core enhancements to Windows Phone, which will be important, that come from Nokia. And then, of course, like anyone else who makes devices, they'll have their own things that set them apart from others. So, it's a tough thing. I mean, Windows Phone right now is aimed at squarely at the high end of the market. They're going to go a little down market with that. They were going to do this anyway, but with Nokia, Nokia still has the feature phone market and the mass market of non-smartphone phones that they need to deal with, and those things will still run on their legacy platforms and so forth. So, we'll see. But the only question I have about the future is how many platforms the mobile market can support. I do believe that it's more than 2. But once you get past 3, it gets a little sticky. Is it going to be Microsoft in there with Apple and Android, or is it going to be Apple, Android, and then this big collection of other companies? That includes HP with WebOS and RIM with BlackBerry, Microsoft, and then whoever else. I mean, it's hard to say. I'd like to think that Microsoft and I guess now Nokia have the technical and user experience advantages that they deserve to be in there in that top 3. But, I guess we're going to have to wait and see.
I think that there's an interesting speculation from one of the Tech News Today listeners as well that Nokia could be using this to buy some time. Stephen Elop definitely admitted, he's like, this saves us money. We don't have to spend a lot of money on developers, but we are going to continue to research MeeGo, and he kept using the word disruptive. MeeGo is going to be the next disruptive. Do you think there's a chance that they stick with Windows Phone for 1 or 2 revs? Probably 2, right? Because 2012 will probably see a new version.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, right. So late this year, they'll release something. You know, their first gen. It will be based on that Mango release that's coming out. We can talk about that. And, that will let them tread water a little bit. But, yeah, so I actually think it's a slightly different picture. I think they're leaving their options open, which is smart. I think their expectation is sort of the reverse of what you just said, which is we'll kind of advance MeeGo a little bit because we don't have a choice. But if Windows Phone takes off the way we hope it does, then that's the thing that they're going to get rid of. There are a lot of, we talked last week about my desire or my opinion that these two companies really should send a much stronger message to the market by merging. Obviously, there are a lot of complications to something like that, but I have to think if these guys worked, you can almost picture this 1 year later, they do merge, and the comment that comes out is, we've been working together so much, we just saw how naturally we got along, and, we'll see. So Windows Phone.
My guess in this sort of situation is that merger is not a goal of this process, but it's also not off the table, that it's a consideration that they're going to continue to look at. And so, people like to cast these things in absolutes that, oh yeah, they've been planning it the whole time, or it was never considered. And the fact is, that's not the way it works.
No, it's tough because Stephen Elop came from Microsoft, right? So a lot of the conspiracy theorists are like, oh yeah, this was the plan all the time. We'll get this guy inside of Nokia, and we'll get them on Windows or whatever. But I think you're going to see other devices. There was a question around tablets. What's Nokia's tablet strategy? And I think their tablet strategy, sadly, is Microsoft's, which is please wait until 2012 when we have Windows 8. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what it sounds like. It sounds like they're in a boat with Microsoft. I mean, whether a merger makes sense down the road or not, I guess we'll see. But this, in many ways, gives Microsoft that thing they've always desired in the mobile space, which they have in the PC space, which is a very big company that is like Intel. They make their own hardware, and it gives them that. This is very safe for Microsoft. It's very comforting. This is the kind of link up that they want. So we'll see. There are already some small indications that this is going to have a positive effect on Windows Phone. Windows Phone application development has doubled. In the past week over before the announcement time. They're now actually the #3 platform from an application developer targeting standpoint, which is very interesting. Although, again, they have a long ways to go before they break into.
There's not a lot of competition for that #3 spot. I guess RIM is their major competition in that.
Yeah, but they're now double RIM.
Yeah.
So that's great. And like I said, if they can, the point was never we're going to come up with these phones and we're going to be #2 or 1 or something. It was a long fight. So if they can establish themselves as an alternative, then they're in. I think at the very least this market can support 3 players. Like I said, the question is how many can it support? Is it 4? Is it 5? Or is it just 3? Obviously you want to be in the third one because otherwise you're out. This is going to be a big year, no matter what. For all these companies, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Do you think this is good news for Windows Phone developers? Because the Nokia folks are not happy with this.
Well, right. I mean, sure. I wrote a little. I meant this to be funny, although obviously when you're dealing with a tough subject, it's hard to be funny for WinInfo tomorrow, which is that, come on, if you're a Symbian developer and you didn't see that the end was nigh, I mean, you weren't paying attention anyway. So I don't mean to...
Never underestimate the capacity of the human mind to deny the inevitable.
Sure. This would be like developing an Amiga application after Commodore went bankrupt. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but, maybe it's time to look around, and see what else is out there. The MeeGo stuff is a little tougher because obviously Intel and Nokia both were positioning this and still are in some ways as a next generation platform. And I think there are a lot of Linux guys who would look at that as kind of a natural way to go. That one's a little tougher, but in the Symbian side, really? I mean, one of the big conversations I've had here on the podcast over the past year or two is the notion that when all the smartphone market share figures would come out, I would really discount the Nokia stuff because most of what we were looking at in that market share number was Symbian. And I don't consider Symbian a modern smartphone platform in the slightest. And their real world smartphone market share is way lower than what the reported number is because most of that is stuff that is just not a modern device. Not that they don't make cool stuff. They make great hardware, obviously. They have some interesting services. And the complete package, I think, is something, we'll see what happens. But I had looked into Nokia a couple of years back. Microsoft and that company made an announcement around Office. They were going to bring mobile Office to the first non-Windows mobile platform. It was going to run on Symbian. And here we are 2 years later. This thing has still not occurred. And, of course, now I think we can assume it's not going to.
They'll bring Office to the first non-Win... Oh, wait, it's Windows Phone 7.
Oh, it is Windows, yeah. It's certainly easier just using Windows 7, right?
Did you want to talk about this shareholder prank? Because
So I have a... I got to go. I'm going to reference what I wrote about this.
All right.
I wrote about this yesterday like a lot of people did. But unlike a lot of people, and I could name names, but we'll just leave that hanging in the air, I did not say that this was a group representing Nokia shareholders. I wrote that this was a group claiming to represent Nokia shareholders. And, of course, it's not real. So I came out on the upside on that one for once, which is nice. Apparently, this was, it's funny, and I don't remember where I read this. It might have been Bloomberg or the Wall Street Journal, but somebody used this event, which was supposedly a small group of Nokia shareholders was looking for the ouster of Stephen Elop, and they had this list of goals for the company, which literally amounted to their previous failed strategy, which is one of the reasons I thought this was a little off. use this as an example of saying, if these guys had tried to do this 10 years ago or 20 years ago, no one would have heard about it because of the self-publishing platform that is the internet today. These guys now have a voice and they have a chance to change the world, you know. And I thought, what an interesting little commentary on this situation, because the reality is it was just someone lying and using that same platform to spread lies and misinformation. So obviously the internet freedom thing cuts both ways, right? There's the positive side and the negative side. So.
I got caught in it because, you know, when I do Tech News Today, I have certain sources that I trust, like Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg, and I have certain sources that I'm very, you know, I look for a couple of independent confirmations. Wall Street Journal was saying group of I'll name names, Wall Street Journal and me. They said,
okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, I wasn't.
No. I know you were. But
I didn't even.
Group of shareholders, and so I wrote in the news views on Monday on Tech News Today. Wall Street Journal reports group of shareholders from Nokia are, you know, 9 young investors, whatever it was called. So somebody dropped the ball somewhere down the line in
anyone can put up a website.
Yeah.
You know, and by the way, I suppose there would be reasons if you were a shareholder to protect your identity in such a case, but. You would think that if people felt that strongly about Nokia's strategy and were, in fact, part owners in the company, that maybe coming up publicly would put an underline under their statement. So, I don't know. I thought the phrase that struck me as odd in there was they said that they represented, I just lost it.
Former employees.
It was a small and young group of investors, you know, like really small and young. Why would you mention that? I
think the idea of, you know, an uprising was just too tantalizing.
This is juicy stuff. You know, I use this story as an excuse to write an article, a broader article about some of the stuff that was just, you know, negative around this Nokia thing. I mean, there's a Finnish trade company. I'm sorry, a trade union, for example, where 5,000 of their 6,000 members are going to lose their jobs because of this. They estimate, and they're asking for Nokia to give them all 100,000 euros apiece.
Yeah, I saw that.
For example. You know,
that's nuts.
It's ludicrous. But you know, but what's interesting is, but it's also Europe, by the way. So there is certainly a more socialist element to Europe where something like that could happen. I mean, let's not pretend that couldn't happen. So. But here we are, less than a week from this announcement, and you're getting a lot of pushback. I mean, this is tough because Nokia has is a big part of the Finnish identity. You know, they're a big part of the Finnish economy. So there's going to be some pushback here. I mean, there's some interesting problems they're going to have to deal with that have nothing to do with switching over to a new platform. That have everything to do with, you know, the human element and the jobs element and the economy and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot going on there. You know, there's some interesting, you know, I've noticed a lot of, I guess petty would be the right word to describe it. You know, petty stuff coming out of Google lately. There was the Microsoft Bing thing where they were completely bogusly made up, you know, thought that Bing was copying their search results. There was a little Eric Schmidt comment where he said, you know, those guys made the wrong choice and we want them to adopt Nokia Android at some point. And that offer remains open, and you know, we think they'll come around. You know, that Windows Phone will fail for them nicely, and they can become yet another Android thing. There was apparently a lot of angst on the part of Google that they did not pick Google, right? Because it's not the type of thing Google would come out and admit, but a lot of people with
I do think that's what you would expect the CEO of Google to say in this situation was, well, we wish they would have picked us. Intel had some similar things. We're very disappointed in Nokia that they're, you know, de-emphasizing MeeGo, but we're totally committed to it.
In an unprintable form, apparently. You know, it's saying something about our industry when somebody, I don't remember who wrote this, said that Intel CEO Paul Otellini used a Carol Bartism, I think was the way he said it.
Was that how they phrased it?
Yeah.
I'm going to start calling anything like that a Carol Bartism.
Yeah, it's just a Bartism, you know.
Did you see the Oscars? They had to bleep out a Bartism.
Right. The answer to that question will always be no, by the way.
That you saw the Oscars.
Right.
All right. Well, we've got more things from Spain to talk about. Mobile World Congress. There were a ton of phone announcements. Steve Ballmer was on stage talking about things other than Nokia. Before we get to that, I want to take a quick break and thank our sponsor, GoToAssist Express. If you're in tech support, maybe you're in Finland and your client is over here in the United States having problems. How are you going to get there? How are you going to talk on the phone, try to talk them through it? Have you ever done that? That's a pain. It just doesn't, you have all of these weird lags and misunderstandings. I was doing it with my friend the other day over the phone, trying to talk him through his Windows 98 problem. First thing I said was get a new computer. But the next thing I said was, well, let's try GoToAssist. If you're in tech support, helping a client over the phone can be a nightmare like I'm talking about. GoToAssist really helps make it easier. It's the easiest way to view and control another computer remotely, and it's very affordable. You can see and solve the problem without being there in person because you see their screen. You control their computer, and you can do it fast. You can even help customers when they're not at their computer. It perhaps, above all, enables you to take control of a problem and solve it the way you know best without having to step through describing all of these things and trying to imagine what you're seeing on their screen. And you can try it for free for 30 days. Just visit gotoassist.com/Windows. Start your session with one click. It's just like all the other services from Citrix. Share your screen. You can share theirs so you can see the same problem they're seeing. Does integrate live chat so you can have a conversation. Get some, if you have some questions about, well, how did you get here? What did you do? You diagnose the problem as you access their desktop remotely, and then you fix it. You'll solve more tech support questions more quickly and help clients even when they're away from their computer. So try it for free. GoToAssist, brought to you by Citrix. And all data exchanged during your session is, by the way, 128-bit encrypted. So you can feel safe about that. Free customer service available 24/7. GoToAssist.com/Windows. Give it a try. It'll make your life easier. All right, let's move on to Mobile World Congress. We got some real details. They're not super solid, but it's more than we had before about Windows Phone 7, right?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, most of this.
My job is to put the positive spin, and then you explode it for me.
I was trying to think, how do I say this?
How do I say
most
this
of this information had been published on my blog in the past. But yes, so they've come out and publicly acknowledged some of what they're doing this year to improve Windows Phone. So
it was in some ways one big confirmation callback. Yes, that's all true.
If you guys, you could just call my name once, that'd be great. But a year ago at Mobile World Congress, Microsoft introduced Windows Phone. They announced their new strategy for the mobile platform. I was very excited about this. I know a lot of the guys on that team. I've known them for a long, long time. What they showed off was very exciting to me and innovative, and it looked great. And, my interaction with Windows Phone has been largely positive, other than the fact that since it's been out, I really feel like they've kind of dropped the ball on getting the updates out. So this year, they've gone back to Mobile World Congress, and they had another keynote address. Again, Steve Ballmer and Joe Belfiore. What they were talking about this time was, I wish he hadn't said it like this, but, Steve Ballmer said, we moved at a great pace in 2010, and we'll do the same or better this year. And I'm thinking, oh, God, it better be better. But, okay, fair enough. So what they announced, and again, a lot of this is just previously known information, which may explain why they felt comfortable discussing it, was that they've got this first update, which we've all been waiting on, that they now say will ship in the first half of March. The first time they've ever actually given us a date. Although I would point out again that the day after Windows Phone launched, I was told, and I and a group of reviewers, that this thing was imminent, very, very soon, which we all thought to mean, maybe on the way home from the event or something, or this month, or, whatever. But anyway, first half of March. So we already know the basics of that. I think people are going to be a little surprised that it doesn't fix more bugs than it does, but they're adding the cut and paste stuff in limited form. They're adding what looks like dramatic application performance improvements, both to the launching of applications and also to the switching between them. So faster startup times, faster resume times, and so forth. And then they're going to fix the marketplace search, which is today completely broken, in the sense that if you were to do something like use the phone to search for that Amazon app that I recommended last week, and you actually typed in Amazon, you would have to scroll through 20 or more artist names, album names, song names, whatever they were before you hit that application. It's unbelievable. I mean, the search as it is today on the device is terrible. So that stuff is going to be fixed. There's also CDMA support. I previously thought this was going to be part of a second update, but this first update will also include the CDMA network support that is required for Windows Phone to ship on Sprint and on Verizon. So in the weeks ahead, I think we're going to finally see some phones on those platforms. I'm sorry, on those networks as well. So that's good news.
But didn't one of the Verizon execs say they're not that excited about Windows Phone? It was sort of talking it down a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Well, Verizon just launched the iPhone, and of course they're a big Android company. But yeah, I mean, you're going to see Windows Phone on Verizon very, very soon. So it's happening. I can't really say much more about it than that, but it's happening.
You think they'd be more supportive of it? That's even if they are. Sure. Why say anything? Can't say anything nice. Don't say anything at all.
Hey, listen, when you sign a deal with Apple, God knows what sort
maybe
of
he was
bloodletting occurred there. I don't know.
I don't think so, but you never know.
I don't. Something. It was like a Rosemary's Baby kind of thing.
Yeah.
Who can say? So the bigger deal, of course, is Mango, which is the first major update to Windows Phone. What a lot of people are calling Windows Phone 7.5. Targeted availability is at the very end of the year. Roughly 1 year after the first release. Although I will point out that, and I didn't want to embarrass him in a blog post, but Brandon Watson, who's I consider a friend at Microsoft, he's in charge of the developer relations stuff, unfortunately said on a video that this release could ship in early 2012 as well. It could, not make it by the end of the
Mango release could wait.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning only because, again, these guys have had trouble shipping anything on a timely basis. So if you look at what happened with this first update where the carriers are blocking it and it's actually been ready for a couple of months now, maybe the inference there was they will probably finish it this year, but maybe it doesn't ship until the first half of
Why would the carriers be blocking it? What is their...
I get asked this question all the time, and I have no idea. I can tell you that if you think about it from Microsoft's perspective, with the first update especially, and by the way, I would apply this to this major update in the future as well. This thing is so important. Can you imagine the uproar if they announced today that the first update was available, but only for these two devices or only on this wireless network? Aside from the fact that they would have to embarrass their wireless partners who had blocked it for whatever reason, imagine the outrage. I made the mistake of buying the T-Mobile phone, and for whatever reason, I'm making T-Mobile up. I don't know what they did, but
sure.
Or if they did anything. But, imagine the outrage if that happened. So I don't know. All I know is that when you think about this logically and when you think about the behavior of these companies in the past, this is exactly the type of thing they've been doing for years and years and years. They don't want to release free updates to people. They want them to upgrade. Now, this is a new platform. It's an incomplete platform. I think there's plenty of argument to be made that just delivering this to people will result in a better experience for everybody. Why? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know how they think. I don't know. I just know that it's a fact. I just know that it's happened. I know that this release has been done for a long, long time. That there are people that have these phones that have the exact software that we're going to get a month from now. It's already done. It's not like it has to be done. It's not like they haven't finished it. It's been blocked. So, I just know that to be a fact. So I don't know. I can't explain why. I really
are they? I mean, I know you don't know, but I'm just starting to speculate down my own head.
Yep.
Would they be wanting to favor selling other models of phones that aren't Windows, and so they hold back because then for timing reasons, if they release the update at a certain point, then they can give the Windows phones a push, and because they like to window these releases.
That's interesting. So what you just said is a more credible guess than anything I've heard so far. The closest I've gotten, and I disagree with this, is that let's pretend it's AT&T just to make it a simple conversation. Sure. AT&T blocks the update. Why would they do this? Well, Verizon just got the iPhone, and now Verizon's going to get Windows Phone. But if Verizon blocks this update, that means they can't get it on Verizon because the Verizon release requires this update. So the longer they can hold out, the longer that AT&T and I guess T-Mobile, or is it T-Mobile? Yeah, T-Mobile will have Windows Phone exclusively. That harms Verizon in some small petty way because they're mad at Verizon because Verizon has the iPhone. Okay, maybe. That I guess so. I mean, I don't know. That doesn't that one doesn't ring true to me, but I'll just throw it out there as one of those things I've heard from people. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a weird situation that something would just be sitting on a server and you wouldn't want to add value to the product that you're selling.
Yeah, I know, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
and what you just said is absolutely true. I don't know. So, whatever. So within a month, we're going to have this release. I can't wait for it. I've been waiting for it forever.
So we get our January cut and paste release in March.
In February. Well, in March.
In
right,
March.
Yeah.
And then we get Mango maybe in October, but that's just a rumor. We don't know that for sure.
Yeah. Well, they've said late 2011. So,
right.
I mean, they have said that. Mango is a much bigger release. The other question, I suppose, would be whether there are going to be other updates between that first release and Mango, and I would hope so, because, again, Windows Phone certainly needs it. But the Mango release, there were the couple of things that I think people would agree Windows Phone needed, but hadn't been rumored for this release. Twitter integration in the same way that Facebook is integrated in the current release. And then Office app integration with SkyDrive. Currently, aside from OneNote, if you want to seamlessly load and retrieve documents from the web, you have to use SharePoint, which is an enterprise or business-related service only. And Microsoft has this SkyDrive thing, which is where they host Office web apps. This would be a way to do that. It's one of those things, in the writing of the book and just in looking at the platform over the last summer, I wrote and asked them, why don't you have this? This is so obvious, So that's coming. And then there's the stuff I'm sorry.
Well, no, that's all right. I was just going to say we could face a situation where it does get done and it sits on servers in October, and the carriers don't.
That's when if you watch the Channel 9 video with Brandon Watson, that's exactly what I heard. He didn't say it that way, but that was based on what's happened so far. I have to think that was where his hesitation was. You don't want to promise something for this year when you already know that what's happened. I mean, I'm reading into what he said, obviously.
Sure.
But I haven't talked to him about this. But there are other features that I think are a big deal. We knew these were coming. This is the things I had written about in the past. The true multitasking, which means multitasking for third-party apps. The internal apps in Windows Phone are already multitask. And Internet Explorer 9, which isn't just that new web rendering engine, although that's obviously part of it, but it's also hardware acceleration. So I think one of the cool demos they did on in the keynote was they showed that fish demo that they use for i9 for Windows. You add a bunch of fish and they all run really fast. And they compared Windows Phone, that same demo in the browser, to the iPhone with Safari. And, it was like the rabbit and the hare kind of thing. It wasn't even close. So that's going to be interesting. I think a lot of people wondered, how could you release this new product and not have a more advanced version of the browser? So that's coming next year as well. That's good. That's good stuff. The multitasking stuff is interesting. Somebody wrote me and said, this thing looks a lot like WebOS. And it does, actually.
Yeah, because they use the card metaphor, right?
Yeah, I don't know that they used the word card to describe it.
No, I don't think they did.
I would hope not.
It sure looked like it.
But yeah, and I'm sure Microsoft's answer to that, and if I could just play the role of their unofficial mouth of Sauron, it's probably that. It's probably going to be something along the lines of, look, we've been doing multitasking for a long time in Windows. We have this feature called Windows Flip 3D or Windows Flip or whatever, and that this just emulates that, where you see a thumbnail, right, of the applications as they spin by. It helps you locate the right one. You don't have to look at text. You can just look at the image, and there's better recognition for your brain, and it happens more quickly, whatever. I'm sure that's going to be their response. But yeah, if you go back and look, if you don't have a WebOS device, which most people don't, you can go look at the demos of how it works there. It's very similar visually. I'm not saying it's implemented the same way. I have no idea, but the user experience or the user interface absolutely looks very, very similar. It's a nice way to do it.
I have to say, Mango looks like a really, really good update to Windows Phone 7. It's my only concern for Microsoft in this situation is that they're not, and you've said this millions of times, they're not evolving it fast enough to catch up. Because I think what they're doing is not necessarily a bad thing to control and say, we're not going to put copy and paste in initially. We're going to develop this very carefully, and we're actually doing a similar thing to what Apple did when they rolled out the iPhone. But we're gonna generate it faster so we catch up. If this is how fast they're going to go, they're not going to catch up.
Yeah. So this thing would be wonderful if it was a here now. It's going to ship, let's say October, just to give them benefit of the doubt. I think we both agree it's never going to happen, but okay, October. Yeah. Well, you're not competing with the iPhone 4 anymore. You're competing with the iPhone 5. And as of today, we have no idea what that means. By this time, or by the time that thing ships, Apple will have revved their hardware. They will have revved their software. They will probably announce yet another generation of this software. WebOS will be out with their third-generation devices. RIM will have the playbook in the market, and who knows how that will impact their phones. Android is not standing still. I mean, this thing moves very, very quickly.
It'll definitely be on ice cream sandwich, if not Juju beans or whatever the next one is.
Yeah. So it looks great right now, but they're not shipping it right now. If they could ever ship that more quickly, I would almost beg them to do so, because the world is going to change again. And they're always, I don't think there's a lot. I don't think there's a big market for, being 1 or 2 steps behind all the time. I don't want to be on the leading edge. Could I get the one that has the stuff the iPhone had 2 years ago? Because I can't buy that iPhone anymore. I don't think that's a good marketing, campaign. It's not a winner. I wouldn't, So my hope is that, when you look, well, I guess I should say, when you look at what they announced, it's all very logical. It's all very necessary. It's not everything they're going to do. I mean, there are a lot of areas in Windows Phone where I would look for improvements. Twitter integration, you got to be kidding me. This was something they had planned originally for that first release, and it didn't hit. So now you're telling me that Twitter, right, this is a simple online service with a simple API. You can't get this into the product until next October at the earliest, really?
And a basic one that everyone's looking for. I mean, people are talking about putting Twitter on SIM cards and stuff.
Or how about Office, the SkyDrive stuff? That's your own platform. You couldn't have supported that out of the box. It's supposedly a consumer device. So you integrated SharePoint into a phone that you explained to everyone was not for businesses, but not SkyDrive. And what? It's very, I don't know. And I don't know. I think that's the point. God knows what the decision process was here. I'm sure there were reasons for all this stuff, of course, but to the people looking in from the outside, it's a little disappointing.
Well, and it's one of those situations where Microsoft can make all of these justifications and very rational explanations of why they are where they are, but the consumer doesn't care. The consumer's going into the shop without any of that knowledge of, well, I understand this is a little behind because of their strategy. The consumer just says, that phone looks better. I'm going to buy that one.
Sure. Windows Phone is a little bit of a tough sell. I very early on, the first time I got my hands on a device, it is an impressive looking thing. I think in some ways you either like it or you don't. I guess the basic UI, but where Windows Phone really lights up, and it's one of those things that makes you smile when you see it. It's crazy. It's a beautiful thing. Is when you have your own data on it. You log in with your Windows Live account, and all of this stuff gets exposed automatically. It fills up the phone. It's not just logging into an account for your calendar and your email and that kind of stuff. It's the photos, it's the live feed stuff that you get that aggregates from a bunch of different locations all into one nice looking little UI. It's as you flip around the phone for the first time and kind of get to know it, you start smiling because it's so cool. All right, that's neat. I just described something wonderful. Except, how do you sell that to people?
You have to be able to log them in on a demonstration phone.
Exactly. And that's hard.
Yeah,
that's hard. And I don't think it's any small thing. I can't speak for every AT&T store on earth or whatever, but you have to think that when an average consumer walks into an AT&T store or whatever store, I keep singling out AT&T for some reason, but any store, T-Mobile, whatever it is, these guys sell iPhones by the bucketful. Now that the iPhone has moved over to Verizon, there's going to be a big push there for Android, as there is at all of the other phone or the wireless carriers. Is there a place on this earth where someone is going to give Windows Phone the time of day that someone is in one of these stores isn't going to actively try to convince a customer not to buy that thing? Mm-hmm. That because everyone's buying this other thing, you should get that instead. You have to think that conversation happens all the time. So you have this very small percentage of people who even know about Windows Phone or feel good about it. They actually walk into an AT&T store or whatever to look at it and think about buying it. And then you have to think that we've whittled it down to this small group of people. The majority of those, I bet, got talked out of it by someone at the store. I bet they do. This is completely non-scientific. I don't have any evidence to base that on, but just knowing the way that these things operate, You have to think that that's what's happening.
That's called qualitative research, not quantitative.
Qualitative, yeah. It's yeah. Is it inductive reasoning? Is that a term? It should be.
Sure. No, it is. I don't know. I don't know if that's the right application, but why not?
Okay. Whatever. It's a guess. Let's call it a guess.
Yeah.
It's
an
my
educated
guess. It is a fanciful thing that this is in the free moments that my brain has, which is most of the day. These are the things that go on up there. So they're coming from it's a tough spot, you know. A lot of those guys have had bad experiences with Windows Mobile too. You know, I recall going into my local AT&T store when I was writing the Windows 7 secrets book, and I needed to get a Windows Mobile device for that one chapter where it talks about device connectivity and everything. The woman tried to talk me out of it. You know, very aggressively.
Yeah.
Windows Mobile's terrible.
She must get better commission off the other phones or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe she gets a little vig on every app sale that happens on an iPhone or something. I have no idea. But yeah, I actually eventually had to say, look, I have to get this phone. I don't care how bad it is. You know,
she would just be carrying a copy of your book with you.
Actually, she then told me, by the way, you have, I think it was like 14 days to return it. I'm just saying, you know.
Wow. That's a hard non-sell.
Yeah, it was tough. So Windows Phone doesn't stink. It doesn't have that same stigma, but it makes me wonder, you know, if that's not what people face.
All right, we've got. We want to talk a little bit about the publishing subscription models, competing models from Apple.
Finally got to Apple. I was wondering how long it was going to take.
But we'll make people wait for just a moment. We got to thank Squarespace.com for helping to bring Windows Weekly to you. Squarespace, the easy way to start a blog. If you would like to protest the discussion of Apple on Windows Weekly, you could start a blog right now. If you want to support
a shareholder revolt, you could have a.
You could actually start a Microsoft shareholder revolt, and it would get picked up by the Wall Street Journal.
Before anyone spends $6 at GoDaddy.com, whatever, on this URL, I think I would just highlight that what I'm about to say about Apple is incredibly negative. I have nothing good to say about this company today. So
you can start your Paul Hates Apple blog.
Yeah, I have that blog. It's called SuperSite.
We already have that blog. Whatever blog you've got. If you've already got a blog, you want to import it in to Squarespace, you can do that. You can import from Blogger, TypePad, WordPress, and try it out for free. It is a fast, easy way to make a good-looking website, no matter whether it's a hater or a lover website or somewhere in between. Optimized for both beginners and CSS experts, so if you're just getting started, it's the perfect place to go. If you're an expert and you're like, I don't need a beginner site, you can get under the hood and customize it to your heart's content. They make it easy for any level of users to make a very, very good website. Check it out. You can use their innovative drag-and-drop AJAX interface to add modules, to play with the templates. They have hundreds of templates that you can use to modify and make it look good. I use it for Forecast Podcast at forecastpodcast.com. We use it on Sword and Laser as well, and it just makes making a website simple. The best part is you can try it out for free for 14 days by going to squarespace.com/windows. You don't even need a credit card. Just go to that URL, squarespace.com/windows. Either start a blog fresh or import your blog. And your data can be exported right back out again. Squarespace believes in data portability, and give it a shot. I think you'll understand the advantages of using Squarespace, and we thank them very much for their support of Windows Weekly. All right, Paul. Apple and Google offering competing subscription content plans. Apple's the more restrictive one, the way it's being reported.
That's a nice way to say it.
30% of every transaction in the app must go to Apple. You have to provide your subscriptions through the app if you provide a subscription outside of the app, and you can't link out to your subscription on your website from the app. If you're in the app, it has to go through Apple, and they have to take their cut.
But wait, it gets worse.
But wait, there's more.
You also cannot jack up your prices on the in-app purchase so that you could say, advertise to people, hey, look, it's $9.99 over here, but Apple's costing us, 30%, so it's $12.99 over here, inside the app or whatever that would work out to be. This is one of the most restrictive, crazy, anti-competitive things I've ever seen, ever. I mean, it's crazy.
All they require, Paul,
all they require
is that if Apple is providing the customer, Apple gets its cut. If you bring the customer from outside, Apple gets nothing. You keep 100%.
Okay, so that would be for new customers, I guess. I mean, I subscribe. Let's say I want to subscribe to the Wall Street Journal through Kindle, Amazon's ebook platform.
Right.
Right now, you can do that on Kindle devices. You can also do it on Android, by the way, but you can't do it on the iPhone yet. But because of this change, that will be coming.
Right.
So the Wall Street Journal costs whatever it costs a month. Let's say it's $19.99 or $15.99. Who knows what it costs, but whatever it is. How am I a new customer to Amazon? I mean, in other words, if for some reason I prefer to read Kindle books on, say, the iPad, how can Apple claim that they got this customer from them?
Well, because if you're signing up for the subscription through the app, not outside, Apple's saying we brought the customer through the app. If you've already signed up outside, then Apple didn't bring the customer.
Yeah. So, but let's think about how this would have to be presented to the user. I'm reading stuff on the iPad, and one day I want to go look at a new book, so I go to the Kindle App Store, the Kindle Content Store, which now can't be on the web, has to be in the app. So we'll assume in this future day that Amazon has built that into their app because it's not there now. Right now there's a link and you go and it opens Safari. Okay. On the Kindle Store, you can subscribe to the Wall Street Journal on your iPad. But what it can't say is, do it over here.
Right.
It'll be cheaper. Right? I mean,
well, they can say that. They just can't link out.
Well, they can't. They can't say it. They can't do it. They can't. Yeah. They could say it. They can't say it because it can't be.
Well, it can't be cheaper, right?
It can't be cheaper
because any other digital subscription that will be offered through iOS has to be the same price as in the app. Now, one guy emailed me and said, I read that to mean that an iOS subscription had to be offered the same, but if I wanted to have a cheaper Android subscription, that could be cheaper. I don't know if that's true or not. I think Apple's going to interpret that pretty broadly to mean whatever digital subscription you've got out there, Apple has to be the same price or lower.
If there are vague clauses in this contract, I can assure you they're not going to be to the benefit of the content providers. That's not how this works.
And what's interesting, somebody in the chat room earlier pointed out that Amazon actually gets 30% of the Wall Street Journal's subscription through the Kindle. So why is it different for Apple to ask for 30% of a subscription from the Wall Street Journal through the Wall Street Journal's app?
Because they're getting it from Amazon.
Well, and that's the thing. Through the Wall Street Journal app, I guess that can make
they're like this third-party carrier now. They've created themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So it's 30% and then another 30%.
This is how the New Jersey mob works, if you think about it, right? They're this like third party that kind of sits between the boats and the stores that actually order the items that are on the boats, right? I mean, it's a very well-established business model, I suppose. But,
I think it's perfectly reasonable for Apple to say, look, if you're signing up subscribers, we want to cut. But having this insistence that everything is going to be 30% seems unrealistic.
Look, I think it is not unreasonable of Apple. We'll just use Apple and Amazon. This impacts far more companies than Amazon. But the issue I have with the Amazon thing is that Amazon has an existing platform for ebooks and periodicals called Kindle. And they make it available on all these devices. It's all over the place, and it's growing all the time. The Apple stuff only goes through Apple. It's you want to do iBooks, it's Apple devices only. It's the only place you can do it. So I kind of like that the Amazon platform is so ubiquitous. But what this is doing is preventing Amazon, and again, other companies, from doing some things that are valuable to the consumer, that are good news for the people who subscribe to these things. So I happen to subscribe to the New York Times, actually, through the Kindle. And right now I read it on a Kindle device because of the devices I own. It's the only one that actually I can use it on, but it's also the one I would prefer because it's got the nicest, text rendering and yada, yada, yada.
Well, if you had an iPad, you'd just get the New York Times.
No, I do have an iPad. I just don't. An iPad. I wouldn't do it on the iPad. I just don't. It's too reflective currently. I mean, who knows? Maybe the next one will fix that. I don't know, but
I like seeing my expression while I'm reading the New York Times.
Yeah, I feel like shaving while you read the newspaper. Yeah. So, but think about the relationship here. It's not unreasonable for Apple to say to Amazon in this case, look, let's say we're going to let you lower the price if you buy it through Amazon. So let's say it is going to be 30% more expensive on the iOS devices because of this fee. That's how Amazon would handle this. Again, it's not unreasonable for Apple to say we don't want you to have this thing where it says, yeah, you could click here and buy it now for more money, but if you click here and go over there, you'll save 30%. I mean, I get that, but the problem is you're blocking Amazon from even having this conversation that this thing's available somewhere else. Not only can they not raise the price for you, they can't even tell people that it's available anywhere else. And I think that's they're preventing Amazon from doing business the way that they do business elsewhere, And I don't know the legality of this. It just rings wrong to me.
Now, in response to this, the day after Apple made this clarification about their subscription plans, Google announced something called OnePass, which is a subscription model that works anywhere. Can work in an app, can work on the web. You log in with your Google ID. Google only takes 10%, takes 10% of the subscription, so publishers can use it to their heart's content and use it on their own website, use it in their Android apps. They can use it in any app that permits you to do this, which, of course, is a dig at Apple, saying, well, we're not going to let you. You have to use our subscription model if you're using it on an iOS. Right. Why does all this matter? Why are we talking about it?
Google and Apple are competing for something that has nothing to do with your Vogue subscription on an iPad or whatever it is you're looking for. They're trying to establish their platforms as the dominant platform, because it's not just this one thing; it's everything. It's the content store with the music and the videos. It's the the bookstore. It's the subscription plans. It's the devices. It's the services and all the stuff that runs on top of it. There's a lot going on here. So Google is approaching this the way they approach a lot of things. It's more open. It's thriftier and so forth, and I think a lot of people are going to embrace it, and hopefully it impacts Apple enough that they change their ways. One of the interesting things about the Apple agreement, or the Apple plan, is that it goes into effect at mid-year, and I'm hoping that, and I'm sure Google planned it this way, was that by announcing what they're doing now, right after Apple announced what they were doing, that they can have an impact on Apple and have that change, I guess we'll see. But
I have a feeling we are going to see an Apple modification of these terms, the way we saw a modification of third-party compilation of
They will not
code,
admit that they changed the thing, but they will clarify it. Because people have clearly misconstrued their altruistic ways and benevolent attitudes.
All we were saying was, well, because they're not going to kick. There's a rumor out that Netflix is going to be exempted from this, and I think that rumor has credence, because they're not going to kick Netflix off of Apple TV.
Sure.
And if they enforced this on iOS, Netflix would hightail.
Well, this is a rare example of someone who wields power in whatever market to an extent that Apple actually has to do what they want or whatever. So I guess we'll see. I mean, the thing is for Apple that Android is surpassing them in the smartphone market, and this is a very real threat to them. So this is something they'll have to respond to. It's not something Apple likes to do. They kind of like to set the agenda, but Google has apparently an endless supply of money and more people working for them than are in China. So, they have a lot of people that can throw at a problem like this, and they do what they do. So nice. I mean, this will ultimately benefit people in the same way that what Apple's trying to do would ultimately hurt people. So one of the things I drew a distinction on in one of the articles, I think the article about the Apple original announcement here, was that, when you think about companies, the credit card companies, Visa and MasterCard, I don't think you'd find anyone who could defend these people and their fee structures and all that kind of stuff. But, even MasterCard and Visa take a tiny percentage, a tiny cut of every transaction compared to what Apple's trying to do here. And there's a reason for that, right? It's not because they're good companies and they care about people. It's because they have competition. And that's what happens. Visa and MasterCard are essentially neck and neck as far as everyone's concerned, basically the same thing, right? So when you have a situation like that, you have competition and you have lower prices, and that's what happens. If it was just Apple and their devices were just dominant, they could charge the 30% or 50% or whatever they wanted to charge, and who could say? Because, they're the gatekeeper. I think the important thing here is that we have multiple gates or ways to access this information, different platforms. This is why I was talking earlier about, hopefully there'll be at least 3. I'm really hoping there are more like 5, because that's what keeps everybody honest. If you have the more players, the better. And then there's no way that one dominant player can screw it over, for everyone else. So
what I like about the Amazon model is I can read my book or my magazine or my newspaper, definitely books. I think newspaper and magazines have more restrictions, but I can read it on my PC. I can read it on any phone that I have, and they've got apps for most of the phones now.
So the reason there are restrictions on periodicals is because of the mobile platforms. You could subscribe to the Wall Street Journal or New York Times or a magazine on Android right now. Can't on iOS right now, although that's changing. So one of the big things that's going to change for Kindle users this year is that ability. You'll be able to get these things delivered to whatever device makes sense for you. It might be a Windows phone, and you read it on the bus going to work or whatever it is, or an iPad, or your choice. But, you know, this Apple thing, you can kind of see how they get the screw in there. It is inconceivable that Microsoft would try to do something like this with Windows Phone, or that HP would try to do something like this with WebOS. And the reason it's inconceivable is because these companies don't have any market share to hold over the heads of the content providers and demand something better. They just want users now, you know.
They've lured people into their ecosystem.
Their little trap.
Yeah.
Their little lock-in Venus flytrap of a trap.
All right, you're taking off to Spain. What are you bringing on? What are you bringing on the plane? We got a lot of folks in the audience that travel. They want to travel the Paul Thurrott way.
Okay. Well, this will probably disappoint some people too. Some of the choices, but you know, I travel a lot for work, and one of the things I think of it as triaging the trip. It's probably not the right term, but often on one of the last days of the trip, I'll look down at the bag I have in my hotel room, and I'll see this pile of clothes I never wore, but I carted it around the country like a jerk. Or I brought some amount of devices with me, you know, multiple laptops I used to travel with, or you know, multiple little ways to watch media, and you know, just in case, because you never know. And as I've tried to be more of a minimalist over the years as I travel, because you know, you don't want to carry this stuff around. Obviously, it's heavy, and if you're not using it, I mean, what's the point? And things have also gotten better because of online services and the stuff that's available online around syncing content up to the web. So I used to, you know, travel with a bunch of writable DVDs or previously CDs that had, you know, backups of data and even backups of the OS, so I could, you know, you never know when you might want to install Windows.
Yeah, I used to carry a Knoppix CD and then later an Ubuntu CD for doing emergency repairs, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, anyone who's listened to this podcast for a while will know, you know, one of my central messages about life or tech life or whatever is, you know, not to overthink things. I mean, I guess you could always be prepared for that worst case disaster. But I guess I look at it like this, you know, if I'm in Denver, let's say, and my laptop literally dies and there's nothing I can do about it, you know, I'm going to go to Best Buy and buy a $300 computer. I'm not going to worry about it. I mean, I'm just going to get back to work. So I don't do a lot of that kind of backup stuff anymore. But we're traveling to Spain, and we're bringing the kids, and they need to be entertained. And, you know, the flight is like 7 hours on the way there and 8 hours on the way back. And, you know, I don't know. I probably could have looked this up, actually, but we're flying on Iberia, and I don't know if they have in-seat entertainment systems, which the kids love.
No.
But, okay, so there you go.
They have a very limited snack cart, as I recall.
Excellent. Okay, so there are needs, you know, that occur on this kind of a trip. So the kids all have a netbook. Like I have 8 kids. I have 2 kids. Kids both have a netbook, identical netbooks, and they have all their movies and TV shows on there. Most of them, you know, they both have iPod touches. Sorry, and for anyone who's curious about that, the reason is my son is deaf, and they have a FaceTime feature in the new version, and you can see people when they're talking, and he reads lips, and it's actually very important to him. So he asked if he could get a new iPod, and confronted by this explanation, what was I going to, you know, he was using his own money even. So of course, okay. But then my daughter Kelly said, well, if Mark's getting an iPod Touch, I should get one too. And she also had her own money because, you know, from Christmas. So, okay. So they both have iPod Touches, but that's okay because I have all these games and things I bought. And one of the things I do when we travel with the kids is I'll buy a bunch of new stuff or download free games for them, and I'll put them on there so that when they show up in the plane for the first time, they get some new stuff. And so it's simple. It doesn't cost that much. And then they have a headphone Y adapter if they want to watch movies together, whatever it is. You know, my wife and I both have a similar kind of setup where it's like one computer. My wife has an iPod Touch as well. We both have a Kindle, you know, for reading, noise canceling headphones and so forth. But I think the big thing is, for me, you know, the flight is one thing. It's 7 hours, whatever, and it's overnight too. So hopefully we're going to be sleeping. But I you know, one of the things I wish I had thought of, I've had this thing and I never bring it, but especially when you fly to Europe, you get to this hotel room and it's a business class hotel and there's like one plug in the wall, and you have all this stuff you need to charge. So I travel with this portable power cable with with 4 ports on it for stuff to plug in, and I can plug that thing into a converter, and then we can plug all our devices in at the same time. And it's like the smallest thing. It weighs nothing, and it's so dumb that I often forget to bring this.
Well, I think that is the thing I most often regret forgetting to pack is the power strip.
Because you get
even when you're traveling domestically. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It depends on the hotel, of course, but you know what? It's a simple, lightweight. It costs nothing. It was probably less than $10. Simple thing to bring. The other thing I think that's kind of an interesting thing to bring if you have time to kill in a hotel is an HDMI cable. And the rationale for that is, and this is true in Europe. If we stay in Novotel, typically in Europe, again like a business kind of business travel hotel, there's always a flat screen in the room, right? So you have this laptop, maybe you rented some movies on iTunes or whatever, or you have movies you ripped, or you have a DVD. It doesn't matter, whatever it is. It'd be nice to be able to watch it on that screen, and actually you can if you have an HDMI cable. You can go from the laptop to the screen, and with Windows 7, it's simple. Start key, peek, and blast it up on the thing, and video and sound right through one cable. Again, it's actually the HDMI cables I buy were like $2.99 a piece on Amazon, but you throw it in your bag, and if you don't use it, you don't use it. But I'm traveling with kids, and sometimes we're going on vacation, but I still have to get a little bit of work done every day. And if they're not going out and doing something, or we're just kicking around the hotel a little bit at night or whatever it is, we can throw a movie up and everyone can watch it on the TV like you would normally. So that's kind of nice. The other thing, this is the final thing. Obviously, there's a lot of other stuff around power converters and all that stuff. But again, as far as kids and technology go, I think the big thing is you want to keep them engaged when you're out and about and doing things. And they could bring their iPod around and use that to take video and take pictures. But we're going to Madrid. It's a big city, pickpockets and all that. And the last thing I need is for my kids to have like an iPod stolen on the streets of Madrid. So instead, we have a little flip video that we never use for anything. And I'm going to bring that in addition to the other stuff. But that's the thing I'm going to walk around with for the kids. So I'll let them, if someone steals it, I don't care because they just don't use the thing. It doesn't matter. But it will give them something that they can fight over, and then
which is important.
It's always entertaining.
Otherwise, they'll be fighting with you. So
that's right. Yeah, keep busy. No, but we'll walk around and they can film stuff, and then this is something I think would be fun for them because they can connect it to their computer when they get home, and they can download the video and they can edit it and all that stuff. And it's just it's a way to keep them entertained in a way that is low impact, on everybody. And like I said, if it gets stolen, it gets stolen. It's no big deal. I mean, other than the shock of that, I suppose.
Sure. So, it's a low impact theft.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had, unfortunately, in my travels, I've been, we had a credit card number swiped off of a bogus thing on an ATM one time.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I was pickpocketed in
Barcelona.
Rome.
Oh, in Rome. Yeah.
Rome. And I also, my iPhone was stolen last year in Lisbon. So
wow,
these things happen.
Clothes with zippers.
I'm thinking about like clothes with razor blades, built in. Well, we don't. I always wear like it's like a wallet type of thing you wear into your shirt or into your pants that protect. You keep money and things like that. I don't keep stuff in my pockets. I'm not a complete idiot. Look, walking around Europe, you don't have to have like a master's degree in anything to look at me and say American. Mm-hmm. I'm as American as they come. So I stand out.
You don't wear the Bermuda shorts and the big white shirts or anything.
No, I've never done that. We don't wear white sneakers. I wear shoes and all that. But look, I'm not Spanish. There's no doubt about it.
All right. Another thing you might want to be taking traveling is some audiobooks, especially for long plane rides. This episode is brought to you by Audible.com, the leading provider of audiobooks with more than 75,000 downloadable titles across all types of literature, including fiction, nonfiction, and periodicals. We were talking about Wall Street Journal and New York Times earlier. You can actually listen to them. Scientific American is available on Audible.com. For listeners of Windows Weekly, Audible is offering a free audiobook to give you a chance to try out their service. Go to audible.com/windows to cash it in. Paul is the master of thriller fiction, I have noticed. You always have good recommendations for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I had actually, some time ago, I had recommended an Alan First book, and I think it was, I want to say it was Spies of the Balkans, because I know I've read that one. I'm looking through his list to see it. Or it could have been Spies of Warsaw, actually. One of those. But this is an interesting guy. And after reading his first book, I recommended it to a friend of mine who was subsequently Jeff, who went on to read everything this guy has ever written, and and he just loves these books. So I was talking to him about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and he was saying, he was asking me, have you read any of these other books? And I said, no, I've just read a couple of them. He's like, you got to get going on this. These things are great. And all of his books are set up the same way. They take place, all of them, virtually all of them, in the build-up toward World War II. So it's usually the 1930s when it starts. And only a few of them actually get into the actual war, but they usually start before the war. And they take place in a specific part of Europe. And they follow along with the actual events that occurred. And they're very authentic as a result. And apparently his descriptions of these places and these periods of time are very accurate. I guess he does a lot of research around that. So the book I'm recommending this week is called Night Soldiers. And it's actually the first book he wrote in this, I guess I want to call it a series of books, that are essentially historical thrillers, if you will. Kind of like, the Jason Bourne books, but pre-World War II, right on the cusp of World War II. So
would that be
always fascinating.
Thriller noir?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So this is one I'm taking with me for this trip. This is one I've not actually read. This one, this comes from my friend Jeff, and he's been berating me, frankly, to catch up and finish these books because he wants to talk about them. So anyway, his other books are the couple I've read are fantastic, and I have no doubt that this one is too. In fact, I believe this is the one Jeff said was his favorite of the lot, and it's the first one, so why not?
Love it. Alan, first could be yours, absolutely free, Night Soldiers, or any other book you want. Go to audible.com/windows, and you will be able to try one book out for free. No obligation. Give it a shot. And we thank Audible for their support. It's a great way to travel. I've been listening to the Shadow and Claw, the Gene Wolfe book, the Book of the New Sun trilogy, and it's fantastic, especially when you get a good narrator. It can bring a book to another level.
I'm not going to be able to bring this up quickly enough, but let me see if I can do this real quick. I'm sorry. Another book that my friend Jeff has recommended, and this may fall into your other. See if I can get here quickly. Your other podcast. You said that you had a sci-fi and fantasy.
The Sword and Laser with Veronica Belmont. We do sci-fi and fantasy picks. That Shadow and Claw book I'm talking about is our current pick. Okay,
so tell me if you heard of this. This is a book that he recommends. Jeff and I've known this guy since junior high school. So, we grew up reading the Lord of the Rings, of course, all the Asimov stuff, the Sword of Shannara and all that stuff. But he recently recommended a book to me that he described as the first book he's seen since basically college that was a decent kind of fantasy book. And it's called The Name of the Wind, The King Killer Chronicle, Day 1.
Love that book.
Okay.
Patrick Rothfuss.
Yeah.
We're actually interviewing Patrick Rothfuss on Sword and Laser this Monday.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So there you go. I did not know that.
He's fantastic.
I also have that one. Now, this one, because of the nature of it, I feel a little less sure of recommending it. I guess I need to read it first, but I'll definitely. I have it, so I will be reading it.
Volume 2 of the series comes out March 1st. Once you finish The Name of the Wind, you can pick up the second one, and available on Audible, both of them.
Yep.
All right, let's get to the Windows Phone app of the week. You've got an alternative browser for Internet Explorer.
I have 7 minutes before I have to leave for the airport, so we're going to have to wrap this up. Let's see, where is it?
We'll get you on time. No problem.
No, it's fine. So the Windows software pick of the week is Mozilla Firefox 4 Beta 11, if you can believe that. Near final, they're saying that they should ship the final version of Firefox 4 before the end of March, if I'm not mistaken. Basically, this is something, it's interesting. Mozilla, what put this over the top for me was Mozilla recently came out and they said, look, IE9 is not a modern browser. Here's why. And they listed this bunch of stuff. Now, I haven't written about this yet because I need to do a little bit of research. I want to see how Microsoft responds to this. But it caused me yet again to look at this thing again. Mozilla, Firefox 4 has been in beta for so long. It's almost become a running joke for me. And there are still some things in it that
beta 11, right?
Beta 11, yeah.
Firefox 4, beta 75.
It's crazy, yeah. But, there's some stuff in there from a user experience standpoint that I really like. I like the design of it. They've done some stuff around the downloading manager, which I really like a lot, and all that stuff. There's some old school stuff that I'm not sure of. You know, that there's still a separate search box, for example. I think aside from Firefox, everyone's gone to that integrated address bar and
which
search
is so
box.
funny because in Mozilla Suite, before it became SeaMonkey, before Firefox, you could do the drop-down search just by hitting the down arrow.
Yeah. You probably can. Maybe you can in this one too. I don't even know. I think I was an early and enthusiastic Firefox user. In fact, I used it when it was still called Phoenix, and then I think they've lost me a bit, mostly because A, the length of time on the development, and then B, the advent of Chrome. You know, which is just kind of an amazing piece of work in my opinion. But I think it's important. Look. Anyone, regardless of who you are, you should have at least a couple of browsers installed. And I guess the question is whether this is going to be one of them. So I think this is an interesting comparison to make between this beta and the final release candidate of IE9. Both of them have this tracking protection or sort of do not track type functionality, and then also something interesting to compare, see which one you like better and so forth. I guess at this point, there's no way I'm going to install the old version of Firefox. I mean, I'd be on this latest version, and I hope to get the final as soon as it comes out. But
I have switched over to Chrome as my primary browser. I use like 4 or 5 every day.
Yeah, I have them all. Yeah,
Firefox 4, I'm thinking might switch me back because I am a big fan of Firefox. I like the add-on system. I've grown comfortable to it. I'm getting used to Chrome, but I am definitely looking forward to Firefox 4.
It's the ultimate tweakers browser, I think. And certainly Chrome has come a long way since the early days, especially. But, yeah, I mean, if there is an add-on out there, it's on Firefox. It will always be on Firefox.
Absolutely.
The question is it on something else? You know, it's interesting. It's something not to discount quite yet, I guess, is what I would say. So we'll see. It looks like this is going to be a big release. It's an important release. It's definitely something to check out.
So that was the software pick of the week. I guess we skipped over Windows Phone app of the week. Do you want to mention Metro web browser?
Yeah, so, right, another web browser. So there's an alternative web browser available on Windows Phone. It's not free. It's actually $1.99. What it basically is the mobile version of IE, which is already on the phone, but with a better user interface. And it's also highly customizable. You know, they have color schemes and all this stuff. But the big deal is, and this is a big deal on the phone, frankly, when you're dealing with a very small amount of on-screen real estate, you know, every pixel counts. And the way they've described it is you get 24% more on-screen real estate for browsing. So the UI takes up less space. So in other words, it's the same rendering engine. It's the same exact browser, the underlying browser, but the UI is better, it's more efficient, and it's highly customizable, you know, unlike IE. So definitely, it's not free, but it's only $1.99. Something to check out. Metro
web browser. If you search for it, does it come up?
It does. In fact, if you search for Metro web browser, it's the only thing that comes up.
Excellent.
On the phone.
Well, Paul, I have to say, these past 3 weeks have been very enjoyable. I really enjoy hosting the show with you. But Leo's back next week.
Oh, well.
That's not the reaction.
Oh, I'm kidding. I enjoyed it, too. Thank you very, very much. I don't know what to say.
We'll say winsupersite.com or buy Windows Phone Secrets or something. Anything else to plug? I know you're already on vacation. Your head's out of here, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't have anything to plug.
All right. We'll let you go catch your plane. You can find Windows Weekly at twit.tv/WW. Leo Laporte will be back in the chair next week. You guys, for the live viewers, will be recording on Friday next week after you get back from your trip, right?
That's right. Yeah, I fly back Thursday, so we can't record on Thursday. We'll do it on Friday.
So, yeah, next week's Windows Weekly will be recorded a little later than usual, and therefore it'll be in the feed a little later than usual. So
yeah, I don't have a time yet either, so it might be at a different time. We'll have to see, I guess.
Keep an eye on live.twit.tv. I'm sure Eileen will update the calendar to make sure everything is there for you. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening. That's it for Windows Weekly. There you go, 1229.
Perfect.
like a freaking plane landing.
I know.
Well, actually, better than a plane landing.
I commented to my wife was kind of looking at the schedule, like, are we going to make this? And I said, well, I'm doing this with Tom. It's going to be perfect. He's going to start right on the button.
Yeah.
We're going to end right on time.
All right. Well, thanks, man. In all
you.
seriousness, I really enjoyed doing the show with you.
Oh, I do too.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Have fun in Spain.
Thank you.
Eat some jamon for me.
Oh, that's probably all I'll be eating, actually. So,
Good man.
yeah.
We'll see you later.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.